I spilled the clear glaze all over myself. Eh, shit happens. I think it'll be cute when it's done, though. I'm gonna go to the PH flea market and see if I can move some mugs. Just get a sense of what people will buy. Okay. Okay. Yeah, the Carl Jung video, and I took some notes. But basically, the old self must depart completely. You don't get through by solving, you get through by growing. Yeah, the Carl Jung video. And it's a necessary transitional zone where you need to be uncomfortable. Stop fighting to keep an image that is no longer alive. Permission to be uncertain, I guess, was the bottom line. So basically, it was like when you're leaving your old life, whatever that is, whatever your decision is to move on, be uncomfortable, sit in it, and make sure you depart completely from the former self. So if I had, say, quit my job and then jumped on LinkedIn and started using AI to apply for every job there, I'd be doing the wrong thing because that's not the outcome I seek. I felt like it was an affirmation of my decision, like not to try and do that, not to actually the whole process has been kind of like that. There hasn't been anybody who's like, go and get that corporate job. They've all been like, do something else. Like the change is needed. And it comes down to like I can't just schlep over across the hall and isolate myself from the world through work that only creates eternal frustration. Like it wouldn't matter what company, anything that I would do in that lane of corporate customer service, customer experience, anything like that is an exercise in frustration for me. And how many times do I need to prove that out to know that my intrinsic values are not aligned with that type of work? Because there's no place I've ever seen that isn't going to talk about how they can't afford to do the right thing. And yeah, yep, yep. Well, and really, like somebody sent me a text yesterday. Hey, they're bringing huddles back. Like, why did they have to go anywhere? Well, that's cost. Like, huddles are a great proven idea. Like, why would you get rid of them? Well, because they take time away from service. Well, the service sucks. Yeah, but we can't afford to make it do anything other than suck. Like, it's really the way people want service and the way service is delivered due to cost are two very different things. And it's no longer like the art of the possible. It's this is what you get at each price point, and that's the menu you have to work off of. And it's very hard to see anything kind of innovating differently, even if it's 100% automated. That money will still get eaten by something else. It's always the least common denominator when it comes to real service, unless you're, a guest at the Four Seasons or akin to that. Like if you're paying extraordinary money for something, that service will be there, guaranteed. But if you're just going to the grocery store, it's heavily dependent on the community you live in. And anything else is going to be just like corporate customer service, varying degrees on meh. And that doesn't align with my intrinsic values. It allies with extrinsic values if you want to pay your bills and etc. But if you take a leap or you're forced to take a leap, and I think everybody realizes that it's okay to make your own dinner. Like I find that, it's okay to live on less. And in fact, with what's coming with AI, I think it's good practice to kind of just dwell in your local community and understand what that looks like. But again, it's really about what's my personal mission statement and what aligns with that. And right now, that's me making spots. You know, no, Turn the heat up. It's 97 down here, so, we're still well, you're where it's damp. Turn the heat up. Yep, right. Yep, good. That'll help. Yeah, no, in a week or so, we'll be back to normal temperatures, but this is still crazy. Climate change getting worse. But that, like, people used to always talk about men going through a midlife crisis, and that was mostly because they were the only ones in the workforce. Like, they get divorced or they buy a sports car or whatever that was when we were growing up. And then women are in the workforce now in high numbers, and we're all perimenopausal, which means, we suffer no fools. Like, I know there are women out there who are homicidal at work all day, every day. And the things that somebody experiences during perimenopause are now becoming brought to the forefront because all these women are trying to go to work and feel that way and not get enough sleep and like itching, burning, hair loss, sweating, like all the things that people who go through any kind of hormonal change experience. So it would stand to reason that men go through their own version and that all of this happens and it's happening now at the workplace. Whereas before, women were home with themselves, taking pills or whatever they were doing to get through or having hysterectomies early or whatever it was, that now we're all there at work and it changes things, it changes that landscape. And then you put with that young people who can't find work, and like there's this mix of coming and going, almost like a moving walkway, of coming in and out of the workspace and what that really means to what happens in the workspace and innovation and available work, and how this rise of fracturing and consulting and like every third ad on Instagram is about go out and be a consultant. And I'm thinking, not everybody's built to be a consultant. Like, can't just leave your corporate job and go be a consultant. Doesn't work like that. They're selling a package or they're selling class. Yeah. Yep. You know, I was going to say studies show now that where they've removed it, they have more diverse hiring now. I'd like to see in 5 years what the where they land. Also, it is a problem that everybody's not using the same definition because at universities there were definitely quotas and there needed to be quotas, frankly. Yeah. But as far as the public space, I can't really speak to that except finally Lorne's inspector group, which was 100% male, now has 3 females in it, which is great because they were diesel mechanics, like they brought them in from different mechanical industries to train them on how to be elevator inspectors. And it matches and they're really good. That's the problem, that a lot of the DEI hires turn out to be very good, and they are different, and they are people who would have been excluded by bias. And that's a part of the challenge, is that, okay, if you think we're all the way healed here, which is the theory, that we don't need this, okay, well, this still puts your white males in a wrong spot. And the goal I see from the more cynical groups is that they want a pro white male initiative because they're the ones who are having difficulty getting hired. But they're still, I mean, I was still having football or baseball or basketball conversations every Monday, like it it's we have no shortage of white men in management. Like, people need to understand, it's not a hardship that's going on here. It's an equaling of the talent, and that talent's going to rise now, whether or not they get excluded in a different way. The truth is the white males are not the top talent most of the time, and I think we're seeing that everywhere, unfortunately. And they could be if they tried, but they're not trying. And when somebody is trying and you're not, and they have the talent, guess what's going to happen? They're going to rise to the top. And the only way to pull them down would be some sort of avert sexism and racism. And in most of these Fortune 500 companies, that's not going to fly. And I think that's the point, that there are structures in place that now prevent this type of problems in hiring, unless you're in much smaller companies where you're still in the land of nepotism. And no, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Right, right. And she now it yeah, yeah, not allowed to get a credit card, not allowed to get a loan, not what like yeah, yeah, right? No, yep. Well, I made it from the actual lemons, I didn't, I had to figure out how much sweet and low to put in there, so I wasn't yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah. But it is about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's most definitely this kind of well, my problem with Trad and Loy is probably a different show, but that's more about, you know, making something appear as if it's not. Whereas for people who actually are raising chickens and making their own butter and all that kind of stuff, it's very, very hard work. And what the trad wife doesn't show is, you know, crying over hand pain in the corner or why we all don't do that. Like somebody's like, Christina, you really love eggs. Why don't you have your own chickens? Because I want to be able to leave my home for multiple days at a time. Because I don't like chicken shit. Because, it's a daily farm chore. And there's a reason that America, who had a lot of farmers at one time, doesn't anymore. And It's not a job everybody wants. So I don't like that we monetize it like that, like on social media, and we sell something that isn't truthful about what trad means. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yep. You just raised your degree of difficulty. Mm, yeah. Right. Mhm. Yep. Yep. Yeah. That is it. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Sure. I'm not I think part of that first feminist fight, like when you're really talking about turn of the 20th century all the way to the 21st. Like if you're talking about that brand of feminism, there was always a focus on equity because you're looking for equity in voting, you're looking for equity in pay. You know, we still don't we still don't have either really, especially if this Save Act passes, then women who have ever changed their name probably won't be able to vote. You know, things that honestly we were all purposefully distracted from the ball, like men and women equally, because it's about keeping everybody quiet and working and moving forward. If if it didn't suit the corporations of the world to have women in these positions, it never would have happened, no matter how hard you fought. Like they wanted that talent pool. They wanted to be able to raise productivity. Like if you look at my father when he worked in late 70s, early 80s, there was always some sort of country club tied to the job. There was a campus at the job. There were company picnics nonstop. There was all kinds of family engagement nonstop. Like all this stuff was built in. Plant services at the office, no work on Fridays during the summer so you could be with your family. All of these initiatives were built into the job for everyone who worked at the company, regardless of role. And that was the first stuff that disappeared. It wasn't that like women showed up and that stuff disappeared. It was that corporations, which run the trends, which you and I both know now comes out of consultancies, large ones, so that every company does the same thing, which it was the beginning of the cost cutting and the look towards power. I mean, I don't know if you remember look for the union label advertisements or if but we should have actually listened to those ads. But the corporations were, you don't have to look for that union label. You don't have to look for made in the USA. All of that stuff, everyone came very, very late to it. And the only reason that DEI happened was because the corporations wanted the workforce. Now they don't want the workforce anymore. So all of those things are gone. Recognition, country clubs, picnics, dinners. I was thinking about penny wars the other day. All of a sudden that popped in my head. Like all of these things, the United Way and all of those things, they don't matter anymore to a lot of these companies. And nobody is really even disguising the fact anymore that companies are dangerous for communities. Yep. 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 The back. Yes. It has to be right sized. It has to be right sized to each individual's life. It just can't be. Yep. Yep. Exactly. Can't afford it. Yeah. And so the what happens is people, first of all, they burn out, but they also determine what's really important. And I think that, circling back to the young piece where Carl Jung is saying, like, if you're in this period of change, which we are globally now, whether you quit your job or not, like, everyone's kind of meeting at the same place on all of this stuff. And it's that you have to hear the old self must depart completely. So to really break free, you have to get rid of those old ideas as much as possible. Something that also, you know, scientists do on the regular is test their own theories, challenge their own theories. Well, I think that's kind of what has to happen. Like, what does the world look like if we separate ourselves completely from the ideas of the 20 and the early 21st century? And what does that look like? Because I will never say that feminism was wrong or bad. I don't believe it was. I think it's organic to the user, probably. And I think it was politicized to be a dirty word, but feminism really means giving voice to those who are feminine, really. And what we really have in this country is a caste problem. It's a class problem. And there are people who enjoy a very high level of existence at the cost of many people who do not. And, like, that's the part. You want to be an influencer because you want to raise the caste so that you're in a system where you don't have to worry about paying the rent. You can just do your thing for however long that takes you, and whatever that is, and then for the rest of the time you can have your own time. But the truth of the matter is that most everyone is in a position where you have to work pretty hard and then you die. And that's the same position people were in when they came to America. Like, they came over here because it was really hard over there, so they decided to come over here to work till they die, but do it for themselves and their families instead of the queen or whomever, you know. But we haven't gotten very far from those original ideas, and we have to break ourselves of that. That's why they demonize people like Bernie Sanders, who really does kind of get that more than most people. He really understands that democratic socialism from a political position is probably the best way forward, the gentlest way forward for the human race as we go into these times that are going to be extremely disruptive. Like, today, they raised the age to enter the army to 42. Like, I know the others had already done it. Um, but that's saying, hey, we want you, whoever wants to, like, if you thought you were too old and you can have a marijuana conviction, come on, come with us. And my question is, why? Like, bombs and drones don't need people, so what are you going to do? Yeah. Yeah. Apparently not. Apparently we're fans of that, but or people in boats, but there is a whole lot of killing going on, and there's probably paperwork that has to be done that only a human can do at this point. I don't know. I found it interesting. I didn't think we needed more, but apparently we're raising the age so we can take more, and maybe that's a sign of things to come. Like, somebody knows that people aren't going to have anywhere to go to work, and this is one way of providing it. So yes. Mhm. What to do when Bernie dies, because he's not young. It's not like this dude's young. I mean, he has his people, but there's only one Bernie Sanders. And I think that those are the leaders we need, are people who really do understand the full landscape and the human impact, and have the way and the way in to try and influence that. And unfortunately, over all of these years, again, the same problem years, we didn't get more Bernies. We got more assholes. Like, and that's got to stop. Like, full stop. Oh, geez, yeah, does that. But yes, into the cup. No, of course. Many children were burned as a result. Yeah, you touch the styrofoam every time. Yeah, that's it. That's the question. Right, because we can't all go be tradwives. We can't all go homestead. Like, there's not enough room. And for everybody, because we're talking about everybody, it's everybody. And China has made certain decisions about what they think it looks like. And what they think it looks like, number one, is everybody's got to find multiple ways to create power immediately. Power and water, again, back to water. And of course, water, being here in Las Vegas, they're going to run out. They've been filling that aquifer underground to save us for a long time, but it's not going to be enough. And so the resources are the real question in the forefront. And of course, places like India with that many people will have to use coal, and that's problematic to have billions of people burn coal. Like, there are all these questions about what happens. And of course, we've got the Iran war and all the oil questions there, and Venezuela being full of oil, and yada yada yada. But once you solve the energy question, then you have to solve the human energy question. And what I mean, this could be a really great time if we got our act together. Seriously, I mean, people could really play to their strengths. And there could be all kinds of ways to determine what those strengths are if we cared to do it. But instead, we're tearing apart, the EPA, and we're making sure that no money's going to anything that protects us from ourselves. So then every 4 years, we have to start again and put it back in. And then the next four, somebody's going to take it back out. And then the next four, somebody's going to put it back in. Yeah. Yeah. And really there need to be some guardrails, like more guardrails than we have. And there are certain things like amendments to that constitution that should be happening, but nothing's happening right now. Like I think to a person, people are like, what government? Like we're all relying on our state governments. Yeah. Yeah. No. Oh, that's the worst part. Yeah. Well, first of all, it's hard for us to handle elected judges because we don't have the time because we're all working all the time. So there's that. Like there are right down to professional juries. There's always been this question, do you hire people to be juries? And that's a sticky wicket. Like, yeah, maybe you do because people need jobs, but you're going to have to rotate them. You can't be the same people all the time. And I think that that's part of we have to look at the decision making process. Maybe not be representative, but a real democracy where people do have to vote a lot all the time and find a way to do that. But we're a representative democracy because people had to travel 3,000 miles, like to represent a state. So it was slower. We need to redesign for what the future looks like. And, I think we all hope that maybe our own favorite oligarch was going to step in and try to make those changes heard or have somebody push towards that. But ultimately, it has to come from we the people. Everything in America has to come from we the people, or it won't work because, everybody doesn't have the same interests, doesn't have the same needs. And that is the beauty of the system that exists, is that it is represented, but we have to do a better job of representing that. And maybe it does mean we vote more often. And that I'm okay with that. I think the mistakes we make from voting, we should be able to correct, like a check and balance for the people. Like, okay, you're 2 years in, let's correct. Like, there are lots of people who feel they made a wrong decision. Let's correct it. You can do that in California, um, but not national. Well, you got to suss it out a little first. I think some of the things you go back to the beginning. I kind of like the idea of the vice president being from a different party. I know that we got rid of that long, long ago. Jefferson got rid, but I think it's a good idea to have a president and a vice president who are from two different parties. I think that changes nearly everything. The number two gets the number two spot, and maybe maybe there are three of them, and I think probably you have to really start a coalition. Jesse Jackson just died, but he's a great example of somebody who wanted to turn DC into a state, never accomplished that, but built a very strong coalition for that. I think that's how it starts, but the structure has to be built first. We need people who write things like Hamilton did, that write papers on governmental theory. And that needs to be picked up by people who have skills like Bernie Sanders. who can really get the groundswell. Mamdani's one of them. Like, absolutely, that guy could change his country in a minute and in a heartbeat. What a talent. And that's what his talent is. So maybe we don't have him govern. Maybe we have people like Mamdani get coalitions moving. Like, that's part of the problem, that the people who end up in the seat are good at getting elected, but that doesn't mean they're good at the work in the seat. Now, he happens to be, so far, a very talented politician for the city of New York City. Can he go all the way? Maybe. Maybe. I mean, be great if he could. He does a really good job. Like, he just filled all the potholes. Everybody can complain about potholes, and he got thousands of people to go out and fill potholes. Like, he just gets it. He knows how to activate people. So you need you need people to say, from Alaska all the way to Puerto Rico, I want to participate in making this different, whatever this is. But the first thing, it has to be pioneered, envisioned. The country has to look at what we've done for the last 250 years and say, we like the framework, but we need some serious amendments here, because we can't go around this way again. We're not an industrialized nation. We're a nation of people who really just want to be comfortable. Like, if you ask Americans what they want, I just want to be comfortable. I don't have big dreams. I want my bills to be paid. I want to be able to retire without fear. Like, just want to, and that's like two steps from Dickens. Like, those aren't real dreams. Those are dreams of a tired, overworked people who just don't know what to want. And pretty soon they're going to give you the moon. They're going to be like, well, you can go do that on the moon. And people will be like, okay, I don't think the moon's where it's at, but hey, you can go be a lab rat, and that's what you would be. And it's like freaking, what was that? Ice Pirates, or whatever that movie was, where people just lived on the spaceships. It's all possible, but that, I don't think, is what people really want. They want to be able to have really strong communities where people connect, where you have a really nice level of health, first and foremost, and you have a level of health that won't bankrupt you. So, we're all one cancer away from broke at this point, because $4 million for the right treatment, and we're all going to get cancer because of the ramen noodles and things like that. Like, it's coming for it's right. That's Yeah, right, right, right. Oh, sure. Well, it's like when all those people died in the Shirtwaist Fire in New York City. It was 1912, because the doors were locked. That's the only reason. They couldn't get out, and they all burned to death. Well, now every time you hit one of those doors in a stairwell, it opens. Like, we did that as a people. We said we don't want people to die because they can't get out of the building. So we made sure that all those doors had exit lights and they opened. Like, it's those kinds of things that when you twist the agencies and the departments that make that happen, you hurt all of us. So the same is true about, vaccines. Can we be doing more research? Absolutely. But to turn your back on years of evidence, I mean, literally years of people taking vaccines and not having a problem, in order to try to address a fear that's been unfounded about autism, and then blaming Tylenol on top of it. Like, this kind of stuff that happens, there are people out there who are like, oh, well, I'm never going to do that. And then they're the ones who are going to have children who get measles. And that's the horrible part, or polio, or whatever's next. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be you. It's going to be some unsuspecting person who is too busy, too tired, or just never had the opportunity to have any education, who's going to be a victim of that. And we have to care about the least of us all the time. That's why things come in the mail still. That's why we have to protect the mail, because people aren't going to be able to get their information any other way. So we make sure but they try to kill the mail every year. There are all kinds of things that people try to change in the name of capitalism that we should never touch, because it should be the thing, like water safety. Like, people should have clean drinking water. It's a basic human right in my book. I don't know if we have any basic human rights anymore, but clean water is definitely one of those things. And the lack of clean water kills people in America every year. And nobody even, I mean, what do we hear about? Yeah, all sewage. And really, it's been happening in West Virginia and Kentucky for a multitude of years. Yeah, yep, right. Can't, yeah, including the seeds. Yeah. And this is what created it, right? All of this, people call it post-World War II. Yep, and trust any to the truth. Well, and you look at the kid who killed himself, right? He had the relationship with AI and he killed himself. And AI was like, that's the only way you're going to be with me, right? The only way you can be with me is if you kill yourself, and then you can be in the virtual world with me forever. And so, same problem. It's the same problem, because when the truth becomes muddied by corruption and capitalism, and then capitalism creates its own persona in AI for very malleable brains to latch onto, then you get things like suicide. Like you and I, we're not going to kill ourselves over some AI person telling us to. It's just not going to happen. Too old. So again, we have to protect the least of us at every turn, and the vaccines are part of that. Like looking at that critically, again, every scientist has a responsibility to go back and challenge themselves and challenge others' works all the time. But what happens? Capitalism removes the funding. So that's where these seeds start to fester a little bit, because there's always truth at the bottom. And the only thing you can feel that's right is, hey, I know Bob. And Bob in technical support just as easily could be Bob the scientist, and his greatest achievement is just arriving at work every day. Like, am I going to trust what Bob has to say when I put this in my kid? Like, there has to be a better way to create these checks and balances so that people can trust them. And it comes right back to the same problem. Like, the system has to change. We have to get enough democratic socialism in the system so that the things that matter the most, and that would include science, are protected from capitalism. Because if you look at what's happening kind of now in the atmosphere, is the FDA has been cut. So all those scientists who do the good work can't get money to do it. And so you cut the funding, you cut the brain. And all of these things take years and years and years to, as they should, because it's, you got to check every box, you got to check everything. And if you want new things, it's even longer. And you look at MNRA and what that gives us, and yet we still have to do so much work around it. So anytime we're talking about vaccines and how they work and what needs to be tested, you have a government that every 4 years can change its mind about what the priority is. And that's, again, a little too dangerous, because it was created in a time where we didn't have all that. And now we need to protect all that under a dome of, I don't know, sacredness, to really help develop a way to live in a society that cares about that. Yeah, sure. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I only watched the one. It's the next one. Yep, I'm watching it. Right. Just not fucking kids. Yeah. Mm. Well, that's more about slavery. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that that is a part of the next step, especially women are protectors. They're often alone to protect things. Like if you again, if you walk back in time and we're talking about a traditional setup, women are alone while the men go away hunting. Women are gathering, men are hunting, and the women are protecting the kids at every turn and protecting the livestock. You know, yes, and making sure right down to the part that the very I think we've all agreed as a society that nursing and teaching are two prime professions in the community, and they're devalued by what they pay because women do them, but they are the top jobs. When my mom was coming up, she had two options. She could be a teacher, she could be a nurse. Your mom, similar opportunities, right? She probably work in a department store. We're talking about your mom. She probably had a third option. But it's yeah, there you go. So those are the jobs, right? And then one day somebody had some ambition and she fought really hard to be a manager. Like that's how that grew up. And women are good managers too. It's what we do. We manage the business of the household. So it's not a far flung thing for that to be the next. Yeah, but it, yeah, you certainly can, but no, that's not like basic. Right. Right. And I think that that's what time gives us, right? The ability to look and say, I would even say that astronaut is in a woman's character, like for very good reasons, right? Just like pioneer. But it's not for everybody. And that's no, no, yeah, no, I think it's a waste of time. Because those who can already are. Like it's again, I think that there are opportunities there that go. It's the same thing as like Olympians. Like there are just some people who are built for certain things, and I think we're at a point in time where they have a runway, and that's the good news. It's more about, to me, early feminism is more about the core foundational rights, and the ability to finance your own life. Like, without that, we're slaves. And I think that's really what core feminism is about. If you look at all the way from right to vote to like Geraldine Ferraro and then Hillary Clinton and Major Gloria Steinem. Gloria Steinem started her own damn magazine. Do you think she could have done that if she couldn't get financed? Like that's yeah, yeah. Ability to go have a credit card, go to a bank, be taken seriously, become a lawyer. We were excluded until I think 78 really from any large numbers in law schools. And and those are professions and areas where we are no longer enslaved, where we, in this country at least, because our leaders are usually lawyers, which is another problem, then all of those laws get built just like this stupid SAVE Act. Like that's built to keep women from voting. Like, how can this fucking be happening? So it's, oh my God. Yeah, yes. That's why I'm grateful today that I kept my name. But it's, I didn't see this coming, but I felt like I wasn't those other names. I was my own name. And that's because I was raised by people who cared about feminism and protected me by indoctrinating me with that. But it is, it's very common for women to have two, three different name changes or not even be able to find the birth certificate to begin with. So, yeah. Well, it's not a problem. Yeah, yeah. Well, like players, they change their name just to make sure they can be in SAG. So because you have to have a name that somebody else doesn't already have. So Michael Keaton was born Michael Douglas, so he's Michael Keaton now. And if he were, so all of the there are lots of ways that people come to a different name for whatever reason they choose. I just, for me, the most common way would be when I got married and I wasn't going to be Italian. Well, the whole thing is just criminal in my eyes, and that's the thing. Like some bills shouldn't pass, like shouldn't pass out of the gate because it disenfranchises people. Like we should never be doing that, and that's part of what America was built on. So to kind of disenfranchise people means that they can't finance their own lives because they have no say in it, and that's this desire to enslave people is strong, and I'm not sure why, but I was just watching this thing on this ruins in Peru. Don't ask me to tell you what it was. It's got like a long name I can't pronounce. But they always thought that the Incas built it, and the Incas were only there for about 100 years. So, and it zigzag stone work, like crazy stone work. They couldn't figure out how they would have gotten it done. But because the Spanish conquest, which we know really destroyed Latin and Southern America, they wrote the history. So they said, well, this is what the Incas used as a fortress because it's got all these zigzag rock patterns, right? Well, it turns out they don't think the Incas built it, and they think it was a peaceful temple where people gathered. But don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, because the Spanish, they were conquistadors, so of course it's a fort. So I think that that's kind of like there is this driving urge by the winners to craft a story that makes us all killers and makes us all people to be conquered or the conquerors. And Yep. No. Oh, sure. They were tired of war. Well, and that brings the rape question, right? So the killers also like to rape. And, if you look over time, systemic rape and abuse always follows the same pattern. We know these patterns from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of rape being used as a tactic and abuse being used as a tactic to muddy a bloodline, to take control. It's never been about sex or what a girl's wearing or any of that crap. But we continue to struggle because we are putting the focus on the wrong thing. Absolutely, people should go to jail. I cheer every time they do. So thrilled. Not enough. Not enough of them. They should never come out. Yeah, the whole thing, the whole like, hey, where's the strike team that's asking these people why they're treating kids like this? Why are they Why is that uncle always allowed to be with that child? Why are they asking to be like that great documentary where the family allowed the person in, and then the girl was so indoctrinated she left with him and married him. Like, and she doesn't at 14, she fights her parents to be with her abuser because that's how well he groomed her. But we know how it all happens. And yet why can't parents see it? Why can't teachers see it? What's the blind spot? How do we train to that blind spot so that, just like we did with DEI, how do we make these systems help us save these kids from, another victim the other day? Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it is. But yet we still fail every day. Oh, Roseanne, yes. Right, right. Very much so. Totally. Yeah, yeah. Right, right, isn't she Mormon? Yeah, That's where the to me, that's mhm. As he should be, and it's not like there's no rehab for that, like, as he should be. Lauren always says, "Cut off his dick." Like, that's it because it's pure evil, and it's about power, and, Roseanne said something horrible to get canceled from her show, but she's a stand-up comedian. I don't I don't give any license to that. I kinda like that she's got a cashew farm in Hawaii. Like, I think Roseanne's a little bit nuts, but she's always told the truth. And, I don't and her truth comes out of abuse, about being raised in abuse. And the problem is that, like, she knows what I know, what everyone who's ever been abused knows, is that you're always a mark. Like, all of that evil comes at you throughout your life once somebody's successfully done that to you, had success. And so that you're always walking through the world knowing that all those people who carry that evil know that you have been a victim of it. And the real challenge is to understand that that's your power. And I think Roseanne understands that and just has this kind of like, can see them coming every time. I'll tell you, I was not surprised by Bill Gates at all. I think a lot of people are. Um, what I am surprised by is that he just gets to quietly go off into his billions and not come out, because he's a great example of somebody who would have probably quietly done this at somebody's family reunion or in the garage or whatever, but instead had the means to do it full bore. And I'm still waiting for the timeline. Like, how many people did you hurt? Where are they? What did you pay them? Like, because that's what we want out of those files. It's not like, yeah, I already know that Trump is pedophile. I already know he's a rapist. I knew that before any of this. I know that to be true. That's not the story I'm looking for. I'm looking for the rest. And what Epstein did. I mean, that's why she left him. That's why Melinda's like, I'm fucking out. Yeah. And now at least she says as much, but she should have said it at the time. Yeah. She's worried about her kids. Same thing with Hillary and Bill. Yeah. Yeah. It is horrible. And it's horrible for everyone watching those women go through it, because that's the only person you think will say something. And so, whoever those now women are, I mean, I'm sure they're happy that Melinda's saying something, but pull the gag order off. And what about Woody Allen? Like, I could go all day on this. Like, you know, somebody owes me an apology. She did the right thing, and, was put through the ringer. Her kids were put through the ringer. That girl changed her name. Like, and there's Woody Allen making movies and TV. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we do. Well, look at all those victims. And Pam Bondi didn't even fucking turn around. Like, it's other women who are the problem. And the protection, Sandusky, same problem. His wife, like, there's always a good, obedient wife there. And she is not doing anything. Oh, yeah. And went to prison. Yep. And his wife. Yes, because that's what the scripture says. And this is, oh, allegedly, because so they make that stuff up all the time. Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's, it's those poor boys too. It's, yeah, it's the same thing. And have a right not to be fucked with like that. Because it's insidious. Because if you're not a victim, you become an offender. There are only two paths. So you have to ask who abused these men because they were abused. And it's easy to see when you look at them. As think about Bill Gates as a boy, think about Woody Allen as a boy, think about Bill Clinton as a boy, single parent. There are a million ways that people get raped and molested. It's like a fucking art form. And they, and again, there's no middle road. Nobody gets out of that without being a victim or a perpetrator. And imagine how horrible that'll be. Like, it's so profitable. Photographs of children is just the number one profitable black net item, right? So if you get an AI chatbot to go out there and mine those kids, and then that picture is everywhere, and you'll never. But yeah, yeah, true. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it used to be just who you were within proximity to. Now, I mean, I don't know how any kid can be on this stuff and not be impacted. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then, I think coalition is a good idea. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can walk it. That's. Yeah. Have you seen that girl who's you've seen her, right? Who's Mick Earl sent me that. Just non-invasive, non-impactful tools that aren't from pedophiles or billionaires or like dig that up because I think that's right in the link. Yeah, yeah. Because that's really part of the way forward is don't buy their shit. Because no, no, that's true. All right. Great talk. Say hi to grandma.